YouTube followers, thank you so much for tuning into our video. My name is Kathy Gleditch, and I would like to give you a brief introduction to the enslaved community at Somerset, as well as some of the primary source material that we use to help understand the lives of those enslaved persons. First, I would like to mention that in our interpretation at Somerset, we seek to engage our visitors in a conversation about the power structure that dictated the lives of enslaved black workers. Slavery was based on racism. It thrived on violence, fear, and the constant threat of family separation. But we also focus on how individual enslaved Africans and African Americans survived and negotiated their lives within the system of bondage. The history of the enslaved community here at Somerset began in 1785 when the Lake Company, which was a partnership between Josiah Collins I, Nathaniel Allen, and Samuel Dickinson, began acquiring enslaved workers locally, in addition to 78 enslaved Africans imported directly from the west coast of Africa in 1786. We do not have a comprehensive list of those enslaved Africans, but have identified by name a total of 15 individuals from later records. These people include a woman identified as Donkey, which was an anglicized nickname for Duco, a name which translates to 11th born in the Akan languages of West Africa. We have no evidence as to where Duco came from specifically or the life she was forced to leave behind in her homeland. The structure in which we are filming is a reproduction of the four-family dormitory-style houses in which enslaved Africans like Duco would have lived. I would like to turn your attention to the 1843 list of families reproduced for this exhibit on the wall. Some earlier lists, such as the 1819 probate inventory from Josiah I's estate, only contain names and ages, while others indicate family groups, as in the 1839 list compiled after the death of Josiah II. These are the names of the people living in the four-room structure this building represents, and each of the rooms was numbered as though it was a separate home. The name Old Suki refers to Suki Davis, who was brought to Somerset in 1786 and was 71 when this inventory was taken. She was related to many of the people living in this building. Luke Davis, listed here, was her grandson and worked in the Collins home as a butler. While the enslaved people here were all equally enslaved, people like Luke, who worked out of the owner's home, would have had access to better food, clothing, and information gleaned from exposure to the Collinses and their guests. Artisans like Ishmael Harvey Jr., who was a shoemaker, also held a higher status in the enslaved community as they could be hired out by their owner and at times earned small amounts of money. However, most of the 861 enslaved individuals documented over the course of Somerset's 80-year antebellum history were field workers. People like Judy and Lewis, who lived in the fourth slave cabin along the shore of Lake Phelps, were field hands and worked long days clearing fields, cleaning out ditches, and cultivating cash crops like corn and wheat. These kinds of lists were created by the Collinses for their own internal record keeping and usually coincided with the death of an owner and division of the estate. The lack of such documentation from 1844 until 1862 invites the conclusion that the enslaved community was largely stable during that time. However, in 1837, an Episcopal chapel was constructed under the direction of Josiah III for the religious instruction of the enslaved community. The parish register for this chapel recorded baptisms, confirmations, marriages, and deaths in Somerset's enslaved community from 1837 until 1862. This register has proven an incredibly valuable resource in documenting the lives of enslaved persons during that time. In fact, the register recorded Suki Davis's death in 1844, as well as the death of an enslaved man named Alfred in 1850, whose entry indicated that he was the last native African living here at Somerset Place when he died. Thank you for listening to my introduction to the enslaved community at Somerset. If you would like to learn more, come out and join us for a tour. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and post comments below because we would love to hear from you. Thank you.